Shalom. Let me get straight into this lesson. And I've been saying this for maybe a year and a half now. A year telling you what real money is, and that what you have today is an illusion of money. And when you go into the Bible, the true money is gold and silver. That's why when you go here, matter of fact, let me show you something real quick. I'm gonna jump right back to this video because I'm gonna play this video. This is the Federal Reserve, the Board of Governors, which that's all the front and the J people. When I say J people, I'm talking about the Jewish people, the Edomites that control the financial systems of the world with these Federal Reserve banks, and it flows all the way back to the IMF in the World Bank. They control it all. Why is this eagle here? Like I say, you see a pattern. So when you go to JM Bullion, and I'll be on here looking at um, spot price for silver, gold, and keeping up what's going on. You go to the copper bars, they sold out. You go to the silver bars, bullions and rounds, they're sold out. And I think right now it's like a 6 month wait if you want to get um, any copper and silver, depending on the website. So what is that telling you? And I've been saying this for a long time. Real money, and the elites know this. They just got you under the illusion of this system. But the people that really understand economics, they know gold and silver is real money. That's the what you have today. I'm gonna show you what it is. Let me get back into this video. And Jake, these rappers, they're holding money to their ears. They under that spell. And these Jakes so lost is like, you know, ain't no saving a lot of these Jakes. Like these rappers, they're in a dead state of mind. They consume with the flesh and consumerism, materialism. They're taken by their own device, and that's why they into so much ignorance and folly. These rappers don't even see their own downfall coming. They don't see it. Let's get into this video.
Say the United States needs money. Instead of issuing their own United States notes backed by their own credit, they issue treasury bonds. They then sell these bonds to the Federal Reserve, which buys them with money they created out of thin air. The money that the Fed created then goes to the U.S. The U.S.
Did you
pays
catch that?
interest on the money that
Did you catch that money that they created out of thin air? You see how this is the multitude of thine enchantments. So what you know as money is all an illusion. It's a spell. It's a witchcraft. It's a magic. The real money is gold and silver. I always say this in my lessons and other brothers as well, because we've been trying to tell you what real money is, but a lot of our people didn't want to listen. And you like, I know a lot of you Jakes that's outside of the truth, that's not in the truth. You like, ain't nothing I can do about it. It is something that you can do about it. You do have to, you know, try to do whatever you can, but ultimately depend on Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai. But you have to be aware of what's going on in this world. Be ignorant is not gonna help you out. But back it up one more time.
Federal Reserve, which buys them with money they created out of thin air. The money that the Fed created.
Money they created out of thin air. That should ring a bell. Money that they created out of thin air. So you have to backtrack and say, okay, if this money is all an illusion, what the hell is really going on? If you paying taxes on the illusion, right? You spending so-called money. You can't even call it money. It's just currency. That's really what it's called. It's currency. And the reason why we have to use their currency is because these devils in power. But it's not real money. It's currency. Really, that's the proper name for this, what you call. Play a little bit more of this.
It then goes to the U.S. The U.S. then pays interest on the money that the Fed lent to the Treasury.
So they paying interest on some imaginary money that was created out of thin air. Make that make sense? Shit is crazy, huh?
So to clarify, the Fed creates money from nothing, loans that money to the U.S., and then charges interest on that money. What this means is that there is never and will never be enough money in circulation or in existence to pay back that debt. We as a country, as well as private citizens, are forever enslaved by debt with no way of ever paying it off.
Right. So when you actually go, no one really asks these tough questions. These economists and all these people that's supposed to be so smart, that's supposed to know all this financial jargon, right? They can't get to the basic of who America owns this. Really, the debt is like 100 trillion that they owe to the Rothschild family, the J people, the J people. That's who they owe the money to. But remember, this ain't real money. It was created out of thin air. It's an illusion. It's a spell. But the people are under it. So this is just how it is, and it's going back until Esau being set up to rule over the whole world with his military, his financial system, politics, and so on and so forth. His influence through Hollywood, um, you name it. So the Lord set this up for these devils to actually make money out of thin air and be able to put the debt on you.
Now, when the Federal Reserve buys bonds on Wall Street, the major financial firms that have been selected as dealers deposit the proceeds at their own banks. Fed rules require banks to keep 10% of their deposits in reserves, but the bank is free to issue loans equal to the remaining 90%. Let's say the Federal Reserve buys a $1,000 bond. After putting away 10% into their reserves, they are then able to loan out 90%, or $900. Since the original $1,000 is still on deposit, the $900.
And remember, the witchcraft is this. This is not even real money. Remember, it was created out of thin air. They just type in numbers on the computer, and thus they can make a number. They can make a bank account go from 0 to 3 trillion by them just typing in numbers on the computer. That's it. But how they was able to set this system up is in one time, you actually can take your greenbacks and go trade it in for gold and silver. So let me show you something real quick. So what they did is they pull a fast one, because they found out that when they first set this scheme up, that people wouldn't come and redeem their gold and silver. They would let it sit in the banks, and thus they came up with a scheme to create fiat currency, right? To create more money, more paper money, paper currency, and they didn't have enough gold to back it up. But with fiat currency, when it's not backed by anything, it's monopoly money. It says right here, yes, President Richard Nixon ended the United States gold direct convertibility to gold on August 15, 1971. A pivotal move known as the Nixon shock. It wasn't the J people made him do this, which effectively ended the Bretton Woods system and ushered in the modern era of fiat currency, not backed by gold. This decision was made to combat Salakia. Salakia, I'm just kind of a little stuffed up. Combat rising inflation. No, it's because they didn't have enough gold. Some of these countries, I forget the history. Some of these countries want to redeem the gold, and then what they did is they just ended the whole thing, to keep the scheme going. And this is the system that we currently under to this very day. Matter of fact, let's go here. What does fiat currency mean? What is fiat? Matter of fact, I want to take you right here first. Slovakia, I need to go back. What is a Federal Reserve note? Right here. It says a Federal Reserve note is a paper currency of the United States. It says commonly known as a dollar bill, issued by Federal Reserve banks, which is privately owned by the J people, starting at the Rothschild family, the Warburgs. It goes on and on. The J.P. Morgans, all these elite families of so-called white people, Edomites, came together. There was the meeting at Jekyll Island. I think that was 1914, if I'm not mistaken. Like I said, I haven't went over this history in a long time. It says, and printed by the United States Bureau of Engraving and Printing under authority of the Federal Reserve Act, Remember when they did the Federal Reserve Act, it's a lot of history to go into. They put the word federal there so they can fool the people to think that it was a part of the government, but it's not. It's a private banks, by these elite families that they set up to control the world currency, right? So let's go here. It says paper currency. So what we know today is not real money, it's currency. But sometimes, we might say money so you can understand what we're saying because that's what people know. But it's not real money. It says paper currency, also called banknotes or bills, is a country's official money. It says acting as a medium of exchange for goods and services, valued by government backing and public trust rather than intrinsic worth. Rather than intrinsic worth, that means it is not worth anything. It's worth something because they say it's worth something. Because if you don't take the dollar bill, what they'll do is bring the military. They'll bring in economic economic hitman, then a jackal, and if that don't work, they're gonna create a false narrative and send in the United States military to overthrow you. It says in featuring secure, whatever. You get the point. So what is fiat? What is fiat currency? It's lock, yeah. So when you go to the word fiat, it says an authoritative decree. It says sanctioned order. So it's, they said it's money, so thus it's money, right? It's a command, a decree. So when you go to the word fiat, goes back into a Latin word. It says means be done or made. It says be done or made. Let it be done. So let's go here. Let's go pull a scripture real quick. This is the book of Psalms 49 and 11. Matter of fact, 1 second. Nahum 3 and 1. It says, woe to the bloody city. So this will be applicable to Babylon, the great America. It is full of lies and robbery. It says, the prey departed not. So this bloody city is full of the blood of the Israelites, the so-called blacks, Hispanic, and Native Americans. Millions of them were slaughtered in the name of white Christianity, so-called white Christianity. And that's the same, what's so crazy about it is that's the same Christianity the so-called blacks, so-called Hispanics, and so-called Native Americans, this is what they believe in, the same Christianity that destroyed them. How ironic is that, right? How insane is that? So this that bloody city that's full of lies. You don't know what to believe anymore. You see something on the news, they lie so much, it actually can be the truth. The one time that they do actually tell the truth, but it's going to be known as a lie because, they have a track history of always lying. So again, you don't know what to believe, what's fake these days. That's why we got to lean back into the scriptures and go with the word of the Lord. That's the only thing that we can trust. But everything else is full of lies and robbery because they have robbed us out of land, resources, dignity. They put these rappers out here to make our people to self-destruct more. They put redlining in our neighborhoods to control the wealth and make us suffer. They put drugs in the so-called blacks, Hispanic, and Native American neighborhoods. This was documented that they actually did this, and they put the guns there too to put the Bible to Jake, basically to set Jake up to fail, to destroy their own people. No opportunities. Ultimately, it was the curses, but the so-called white man facilitated the curses, and he's going to have to pay double for what he's done. Go here. And these devils are very proud, and they think they're not going to never be conquered. It's the book of Psalms 49 and 11. It says they're inward thought. The Lord is telling us how these devils think inside their mind. That their houses shall continue forever. So they think this going to go on forever. They think that they're going to be oppressing us. They're going to be on top. They're going to be able to do whatever they want to do with impunity forever. Nothing's going to never change. That's what they think. And they're dwelling places to all generations. That's why these devils will talk about the future generations of America, of these Edomites, so-called white people, right? They call their lands after their own names. So a lot of these names, these monuments, these places that's infamous, they named after so-called white men, these big time